Hello there, and you're very welcome to the latest of these homeschool videos put up by Monica O'Connor. My name is Seamus Ong, and I'm a homeschool adult. After coming through the whole journey of homeschooling over the last 10 years, and I finally finished my homeschooling journey, and I'm just going to go through a bit about how it was and the different experiences I've had anyway. So first of all, thank you to Monica for giving me this opportunity to talk about it. I'm aware that this video will be watched a lot by homeschool parents who maybe are starting out in their homeschool journey, and also those who are maybe just thinking, you know what, maybe homeschooling might be for me, I'm gonna kind of gear it towards that, because it is kind of a stressful enough time when you're trying to think about all these things. So hopefully I can be some help to all those who are watching out there. So I have a few questions now that they're actually only just 3 questions, but I'm going to go into them in a good bit of detail anyway, which Monica has given me, and so I'm just going to go straight into these anyway. So the first one is, what was my average day like in homeschooling? So I suppose over my homeschool journey, it changed quite a bit, how I was homeschooling. And I started homeschooling at the age of 8. I went to school before that, which I'll mention later on in the video. And I suppose when I started off with that, I would have been quite unschooled, like a lot of the others in these video series. I would have been quite doing a lot of unschooling. So I would have been just learning through my interests, and my big interests were sport. I was mad into the GAA and hurling. I played for the local GAA team there, and I was mad into that. I was playing hurling all the time, kicking football, and I suppose I would have used quite of those interests to help me learn and stuff like that, because I would have been I wouldn't have been big into, let's say, reading or writing or that, and I just had no interest in doing that. And through, let's say, sport and stuff like that, I began to start reading and writing, and I would have used just by writing down football scores and different sporting results, and reading the newspapers for, let's say, different sporting articles and stuff like that. So that's really how I ended up doing most of my reading and writing, because I had no interest in, let's say, taking down a book and actually starting to read it. Also, I had other interests as well. From about the age of 10, my grandfather, who just lives across the road, had a timber business, and he sold garden sheds and woodlap garden fencing as well. So I got involved in that at quite a young age. He trained me up. I was started off by maybe just cleaning around the yard. It was a small business. It was in his back garden, so it would have been quite, let's say, a small kind of family business. But I was delighted to get involved, and I actually I was trained up, and I was about at the age of 10, 11, I was doing the accounts and stuff like that, and it was huge education, and education that I wouldn't have got through being in school. So, and definitely as I got older into my teens, I was, let's say, ringing up, I was taking phone calls in for orders for, let's say, a garden shed, or let's say other timber that people wanted to be people wanted to buy themselves, So I really got a great insight into a business, and I continue to run the business now myself. My grandfather passed away a few years back, but I'm keeping the business going, and it's now my business, really now. So I'm really using that to just expand, and it's a great kind of it was a great insight for me to have into the business world, and it was something that in my early homeschooling journey that I was really grateful to have. I also when I started homeschooling, I got a big interest in, let's say, nature as well, and I would have because I was doing a lot of unschooling, I would have spent a lot of time the learning about birds and nature and animals and stuff like that. And a lot of the time, like a good story for you is now, but one time I said, you know what, I'm gonna do a bird project, and I got down a bird book, and I got as well loads of information, and I got a checklist together, and I said, right, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off by I'm gonna get find a bird book. That was the first thing on the list, and then it said number two, then look, read the bird book. Number three, um write information on from the bird book. And Mam was looking at that there, and she was saying, I'm doing no more schoolwork at all. It's really not going anywhere at all. And I would sit outside in the garden with binoculars, and I'd be there looking for birds, and in the back garden I would fly in. I would have, let's say, little bird feeders around the place, and she was just getting really annoyed about this. She's like, "God, where's this education coming in? This really isn't working. This homeschool. Let's get them back to school." But what eventually then happened was one day we were down in the park, and I bumped into this man, and he was saying, "Oh, there was some sort of hawks up there," and myself and the man just suddenly went into a conversation about wildlife, and my man was completely stunned, because even though I wasn't writing up a big project or anything like that, I had read the book, and I was been just researching loads of information about wildlife, and I had it all in here on my head. And just because I didn't make a big project saying, yep, here's my presentation, it's all great now, didn't mean that I was actually educating myself. So definitely it was a great insight to what homeschooling really was about. It's not about you tick the boxes, but you didn't give the work, which in school that's the way it's all about. It's all about you have to show the work. In homeschooling, it's about learning the stuff. And that was one of the big kind of learning curves when we started homeschooling. I suppose just going to, let's say, as I got older, to about my teenage years, about what an average homeschool day was like, I got more into schoolwork as I got older. I suppose I lived in a housing estate, and there was a lot of my friends, I say, from the GAA would have been starting to do schoolwork, and they were working towards their junior sorts, and I kind of felt, yeah, I want to be part of that there. I want to just start doing some work. So we would have had Dad was great for, let's say, helping us with maths, and also when we were younger we had a woman came in and did a bit of Irish with us, and Mam's good at the Irish, so she helped us with that. But the other subjects I would have really just used them from school books. I would have researched, let's say, history and geography, and I would have mainly been able to just self-educate myself in that area of things. I wouldn't have been the most motivated person regarding the schoolwork, and as I got older into my teens, my interests kind of changed more into music, and that was because you may have seen Nisha Kettle's video, one of the previous ones. He's a great fiddle player, and but the Kettle family were telling us about traditional Irish music and how great it is for socialising, and how it's just a great, let's say, outlet to do. And so myself and my sister, Mary Aoife, we started playing the tin whistle, and I just fell in love with Irish music. And I started then, when I was 14, I started playing the uilleann pipes, and I absolutely fell in love with the uilleann pipes. I would practice all the time. I still do. I practice about 3 hours every day, but it's one of my interests. I've just gone down this road, and I'm really passionate about it, and I definitely like to make some sort of a living out of playing music. And the music itself, it's given me so many great opportunities as well. I've because of the music, I've been able to perform on radio twice. I've also been given the opportunity. I was given a scholarship to go down to a music week down in County Clare, and I think if it wasn't for the homeschooling, I really wouldn't have been able to give that much time and discipline to the music, which was one of my big passions. And I think if you've seen the other videos, I've watched them myself. I think in the homeschooling, it's really that if you have an interest, you're able to really harness that interest and give it its full attention. And I think in school, it's not really, you don't get to do that. You have to do 1 hour of that subject and move on, and you can't stick with it for the full day. And that's what I've really kind of found out about the homeschooling over this journey, that realistically, like, it's all about, let's say, doing what you want to do and investing that time into it. And as well as that, I've also, through the music, I've was able to start up doing my own radio show in a local radio station, and that was another huge educational turn for me. I've got really interested in that, in the whole media side of things, and it's another possible part that I'd like to work in, maybe in the whole media side of things. So it's really just opened up my options quite a bit. Just another part of this, I'm just looking at my list here, if you'll see that I'm looking down, but yeah, is the social kind of end of things. And as a family, my mother would have really got involved in homeschooling and meeting up other people, and I think that's really important for homeschooling, because sometimes the walls around you can seem you feel quite, let's say, enclosed. You feel like there's no one to talk to really, and you can get a bit lonely in the whole homeschooling cycle. And that's why my mum, really, she was brilliant. She decided, you know what, we'll head out on day trips out. Then we'd head out. She travelled the country going to homeschool meetups, whether it was the Big Blue Barn in Carlow, and also there was also loads of meetups that she organised locally, to just to try and get our interests in there. So for instance, let's say I was big into sport, and what she would have done was she would have organised a sports day, because I had that interest in sport, and she would have, let's say, really organised things that we'd be interested in the hopes that she would that we would be able to find like-minded people through in those meetups, and they would come along to those meetups that she organised. And I think the big thing about it is really if you're starting off homeschooling, I would say definitely just get involved as much as you can. Like, when we started off homeschooling, there was all the different meetups, and we just got right stuck in the middle of the homeschooling. We met up with as many people, all the people you've seen in the video, in the previous videos, we would have got talking to them, found out their homeschooling experiences, and just really try to branch out. And I think another good side to it is that there are so many different homeschool organisations, and I think it's so important to maybe branch out into those as well. You have the HEN group, which is the homeschool home education network, which is the main kind of organisation. But you also have, there's other groups out there that a lot of people aren't aware of. Like, we got involved when I was 11 in a Catholic homeschooling group, which was really great. And I suppose a lot of homeschoolers, when I started, weren't really interested in sport, and I kind of struggled to find friends through that. But it was because we branched out into the other groups that I found people who were into the GAA and had the same interests as me, and that was really great to be able to find that. But I do think it's really important to, let's say, make up a meetup. Like, let's say if you have a child who's interested in, let's say, chess or something like that, what you could do is, let's say, organise a meetup that involves, let's say, a little chess club or something like that. So other young homeschoolers that are interested in chess will be able to come to that meetup, and basically then your child will be able to meet like-minded people. And I think that's very important, just to branch out, because you are at home, and I think that it's so important to meet up with other homeschoolers as well. So I'm going to move on to the second question now because I've spent 15 minutes on this topic here. So you're probably thinking, oh gosh, I'm talking a bit too long. So the second question is how long or what was my school experience? So I was in school until I was about 8 years old. I absolutely hated it. I really did not get on well in school. My sister was being bullied in school, and that was why we left school. I was very fortunate that my mother decided to, my mother and father decided to take me out as well, and I was really happy with that because I just wasn't happy in school. I was quite a quiet person, and I wouldn't have been that engaged with the teachers in school. So definitely, I found school quite a challenge really for my few years in there, and I was just delighted to get out from that system, be free, and do the things that I want to do. I also feel from my experience of schools that schooling it's not a great system really. I find that it's very much pushing exams, and it's all about, it's like a game to collect as many A's as you can, and it's about, let's say, they cram information, I find, into your head, and basically you just end up throwing it up on the exam paper, and it's actually not education at all. And what I found out is that homeschooling really is true education. I was actually heard recently that word education comes from the Latin word educe, which means bring forth. And I think in school, if for me, I just found that it just didn't bring that out of me at all. I felt I was coming more enclosed into myself. My sister, because she was being bullied, she was really enclosed in herself. When she started homeschooling, she was really nervous and an anxious person. And I think whereas the homeschooling, it broadens you out. And if it wasn't for the homeschooling, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have had any of the opportunities I had in the music. I wouldn't be able to have my own business, my own radio show. I wouldn't have been had any interest in wildlife. And it's just broadened my interest and my opportunities out so much. And a lot of people ask as well, like, do you not benefit socially better from home from being in school? And I would actually argue against that, because I feel there's so many pressures in school, and people come out of school, youngsters come out, and I see it all the time, and they come out feeling like they're just, the pressure in school is just at a different level, whereas in homeschooling it's a more relaxed approach. You're doing it at your own pace, and I think it's just so important for your mental state to be to be homeschooling. And I think, over I've been a lot of people that I see coming out of school, they'd be also a lot of them would have, let's say, autism, and maybe have some sort of learning difficulties, and the stress they're under when they're in the school environment from teachers and from their school friends as well, it's just overwhelming. And I think the one thing that when we left school, we just felt such a weight was lifted off us, and it was just absolutely fantastic to be able to just get that energy release out of us, because I find that just the stress of school can be just a little too much. So finally, I'm going to go on to the last question, which is what I do for exams. And this is a very interesting one, because, as I've said earlier, I had my business, I had my radio show, I was playing music all the time, and realistically the schoolwork was kind of put on the end. Even though I decided myself I wanted to do schoolwork, it really was put off, and I kind of just had it as another option to the side. I was kind of, about a year ago, things were going really well with the music, I was really happy with that, but I was kind of looking, I wasn't exactly too sure what I wanted to do with myself, whether what to go into, let's say, in the music side of things. Also, maybe as I get older, I was kind of thinking, what would I do? Would I be really interested in doing music for my whole life? Is there another job that I would like to do? So a nice synchronicity happened where my auntie phoned me up and she said that she was going to be helping out for Seachtain na Gaeilge in a local primary school and doing some a little Irish workshop, and she was wondering would I come along and bring the uilleann pipes along. And I said, well, I have a bit of experience. I taught the tin whistle down at the Athy homeschool meetup, and I worked with small children in the GAA, so I said, you know what, I'll come along and do that. So I went there anyway, and I played the uilleann pipes. I showed them all the different bits, all the little primary school children, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And for someone who's had such a bad experience in school, I actually thought to myself, well, I'd actually be interested in giving my own approach on teaching into the classroom. And I actually thought, believe it or not, about going in and doing primary school teaching, which is absolutely crazy. But as I looked into it, I saw that there was less. It's 500 points in your leaving cert to be a primary school teacher, and that kind of bursted my bubble a bit. And I was like, oh gosh, how am I going to do that? I'm not an academic person. I wasn't motivated to do the schoolwork at all, and I was really disappointed because my sister did a PLC course and I seen how well she went through that there, and I really wanted to go that approach, but it just wasn't. I wasn't able to do that. But thankfully, another nice synchronicity happened when I found out that there was a local course in a college nearby, a local college, Ballyformet College of Further Education, that does 3 years of music, traditional Irish music and media, which was right down my alley because I love the music, and I also had my own radio show, so I was interested in the media side of things. And if I completed that there, I'd be able to go on and do a master's in primary school teaching. And all I'd need was just Irish, English, maths in the leaving cert. So I was like, right, this goes right down my alley. I'm going to give this a go. So last May, I was talking to the Conroys. You may have seen Robin Conroy's video. If you haven't, check it out. It's really good. And they were saying that Robin's sister, Eva, went to a place called Pierce College, which is kind of like a further education college, to do her leaving cert there. So I said I'd do it there anyway. So I started in September anyway. I was really nervous. I'd never did any English at all. I would have only done Irish on, let's say, Duolingo, or let's say as our friend came over and taught us a bit of Irish in the house, but that was very basic. And I had to do higher level Irish as well, and of course maths as well. So it was definitely a very tough experience at the start going in, but I really found out that even though I never did any of my schoolwork was very small, basic and small, and I didn't do too much of it. Because I wanted to do the teaching, I really just pushed myself for that year, and I felt like I've got on really well, and I'm still waiting to get my calculated grades from the college, but I felt like definitely that I really proved to myself that I was able to do schoolwork, because something that I found quite hard was when people would ask me, oh, what do you do for maths and what do you do with English, and I'd always kind of not know what to say to them about doing all this work. And a lot of the time I would have kind of been feeling kind of a bit apprehensive about, let's say, the future, and I would always have heard of, let's say, people saying you'll be fine, you'll get through homeschooling, and I would have said how, because I was just so focused on my music, my business, and my radio show, that I just couldn't see how that I was able to get to this promised land. But it just happens, and I think about a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have been really starting to get worried, saying, what's gonna happen? Like, would I be able to get a job for myself? And I think it's just getting that reassurance that yes, it's okay, that I'm able to do it is just fantastic. And I think, coming through it, there's been definitely so many hills and valleys through it, but you get more good days definitely than bad days. And I think definitely doing the Leaving Cert has proved to myself that really anything is possible with homeschooling. And it's really just, you can do whatever really you want. The sky's the limit, really. I also would say, though, even though I did do the Leaving Cert, and I was very happy that I proved to myself that after doing this year that I can do it. I would say that the exam itself is quite focused on, let's say, a more school kind of side of things, and I think definitely a PLC course would be more better from a homeschooling side of things. The Leaving Cert is very much about cramming information in your head and again throwing it up on the exam paper. But I do think you definitely can do it. But I would just say maybe go for my own experience would be try and go for the PLCs, because you can get into so many different courses with PLCs, and they really benefit you greatly going into college life. Realistically, you only need a Leaving Cert if you want to do a very high scoring career, whether it's medicine, law, engineering, or teaching. Again, you're able to get into so many courses with just a PLC. Finally, the last question is, what do I hope to do for a career? And I suppose I really I'm so passionate about my music. I would really love to be able to become, let's say, a professional musician from some time anyway, gig and perform with the uilleann pipes and traditional Irish music, and I definitely would like to do that. I suppose further down the line, I would like to then, maybe when I settle down and have a family, maybe I would maybe go then to do the teaching side of things and become a primary school teacher. So just that I'd be able to have a good steady job with a good income and something that I'll just keep myself tipping over. But that's the plan anyway for the future. So I'm just going to leave it at that there. I've been talking for almost 28 minutes now, so you're probably sick and tired of me talking anyway. But I hope that you've got something from this video. No doubt there will be days if you're starting off homeschooling that you'll feel, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And that's perfectly natural. I felt it. Actually, my mum talked to so many of these of the people that the youngsters that are homeschool adults, as they are, that have been doing this these videos, and they just kept saying, it will be okay. And I can say myself now, it will be okay, even though at times I never believed it. And I just think, you will have more good days than bad days, and you'll have so much stress released once once you do the homeschooling. If you're coming out from school and start doing homeschooling, it'll be just such a weight lifted off you. And I think really the education journey it brings on you is truly great. So once again, thank you very much, Monica, for giving me this opportunity to talk about my homeschool journey, particularly after me just finishing it there a few weeks back. And I hope for all those who are thinking of homeschooling, I really hope that your experience goes as well as mine did. So thank you very much.